So welcome back for chapter 2, section 2, rounding decimals. Okay, now we're going to actually talk about rounding and what that implies. So when I was taking the test, I did see that I needed to read the question entirely. Okay, because the writers of the test, they told us what they wanted us to round off to. Is it to the whole number? Is it to the tenths, to the hundredths, to the thousands? Okay, so I just found, hey, you know what? This would be a nice refresher for us to go over rounding. Okay, because believe it or not, sometimes we mistaken the place value that we have to round off to, and our question will be entirely wrong if we're off by a unit. So let's try to minimize our errors because of rounding. Okay, and so just a quick reminder on how to round. Round down our numbers when it's 4 or lower. If our digit is 4 or lower, then we round low. Okay? We round up when it's 5 or higher. So if you're not sure, is it 5 or does it have to be 6? It's 5 or higher. We give it the benefit of the doubt and we round up. Okay, it's pretty simple, of course. So this is our first example. We have 3 and 96 thousandths. And now the underlying part tells us what they want us to round to. And so in this case, it's on the left side of our decimal. So that would be our whole number. So they want us to round to the nearest whole number. So how do I round? I look at its neighbor. I look at the neighbor. And I say, hey, are you big enough for me to become a 4? Or are you maybe kind of weak and I need to round down to just a 3? Well, in this case, a 9 is pretty strong, right? And so we look at a rule. 5 or higher means we round up. So we can give it that little extra push to convert this into a whole number 4. I'm not going to put any decimals because they wanted us to round to the nearest whole number. Okay, and so our neighbor told us, yep, we're strong enough to move up. So we did. And that's it. And then problem number 2 is 4.372. And they want us to round to the nearest hundredths. So then, of course, I look to the neighbor to the right and say, hey, can you carry me to become an 8? Or do I have to stay a 7 and drop you because you're weak? Well, this 2 is below our 4 lower standard, so we have to round down. So I'm keeping my whole number, 4. I'm keeping my tenths. And I'm going to keep that 7 the same. But that 2 becomes 0, right? I don't have to put it because remember in the last section I said, if the 0 is the last number, I don't have to include it. It's understood that it's there. But just in case, just to see it visually, that's what that 2 becomes. We drop it. Okay. So that's my new answer. Question number 3. I don't know why I spaced it out so much. A lot of free space there. Next one is 27.705, and they want us to round to the nearest tenths. To the nearest tenth. So again, I look at my neighbor to the right, and I say, hey, are you strong enough for me to become an 8, or do I have to drop you off to survive, right? To stay here. And then notice, hey, but look at this 5. I'm strong enough. Well, I'm sorry, but that doesn't matter. I'm only talking to the 0. It's the immediate neighbor to the right. Okay, immediate neighbor to the right. And so I'm sorry, I'm not strong enough. So if I get dropped, you're getting dropped with me. So I'm dropping these 2 off. And my new answer becomes 27.7. It stays like that. Okay, and so the last problem that we have here is 22.547. Okay, and again, it wants us to round to the nearest hundredths. So I look at the neighbor to the right, and I ask, are you strong enough for me to become a 5, or do I stay a 4 and just drop you? Well, in this case, it's bigger than a 5. So I'm going to go ahead and give it that extra power that it needs for this digit to grow. So this new number becomes 22, keep my whole number, 0.55. And again, I drop my 7, but it really just becomes a 0. And that's it. That's how you round. I rounded to the nearest whole, to the hundredths, to the tenths, and of course we don't have a tenth thousands place, so I don't need to round to that place. Okay, hopefully this was a quick reminder about how to round our decimals.